So now we have the light bulb built. I'm going to show how to create this folding carton to contain the product. So it's based on these two triangular shapes. It's pretty straightforward. It protects the bulb. There's no additional plastic or vacuum forming. So the bulb is inside and it's protected. And I have this outer cardboard sleeve, which contains everything. So you can touch the bulb. You can see it almost in its entirety, front and back. And it provides the protection, and it has a relatively high-end look to it. This particular design, I'm going to show the graphics so it can be positioned on shelf vertically and horizontally, which is quite often done in the light bulb area. They have different orientations. So one side will be for vertical and the other side will be for horizontal, which is also an interesting feature of this design. So to start with this design, I have the layer set up here. So I have the bulb. Doesn't have the texture map on it. We don't need the visual at this point. I just need the piece of geometry. And then I've created, let's look at from the top, I've created this square section here. I'm going to go into wireframe. And let's just move that in. So this is the geometry. It's got the perfect circle for the light bulb. I have this square footprint. I have a little extra space in there just to keep it away from the edge for a little additional protection. That was sort of an arbitrary decision. And then I drew my diagonals, and I'm going to use that as a guide to create these triangles. So I'm going to go to my line tool and start creating these triangular sections, which are actually going to be the glue flaps at the end of the structure. You'll see all this when I put it together. So I'm going to snap right into center, have my snaps on, and I'm right on center. I'm checking my coordinates, X, Y, and Z coordinates up at the top left, and they're all in 0. So that means everything is perfectly lined up. So I'm going to use my continuous line tool, and I'm going to just create these shapes here while I'm in this view. And I'm going to come right back to center, double click, and I know that's going to be a surface. That's one of the triangles that we're going to need. We're also going to need another one, which is going to be half this triangle. So I'm going to click on the center, and I'm going to snap into the middle of this panel right here, snapping right to the center. And I'm going to come over to this corner and then go back into center so I have that triangle ready to go. Let's see, there's 60. So those are down there. I'm going to show those in a second. I also have this center line right here. Let me select that. I had done that. Look at that from the front view. So that's that red line. So I picked an arbitrary number. I'm a little bit over an inch on the bottom of the bulb and approximately that same distance at the top. I believe I made those exactly the same. That distance is going to be where my glue flap is. I wanted that to be relatively substantial, so I'm sort of just picking that arbitrarily. And that gives me a total package height of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's about 7 inches total height. So I went to retail and took a look, and that'll work. That'll be an acceptable height for this light bulb. This particular light bulb is relatively expensive, so it can afford to have a more complex package structure. I mean, this bulb retails for anywhere like $30 to $60, $70 or something like that, so it's quite expensive. So we can spend some energy creating a package for this. So I have that center line, and that will be my guide for my panels to figure out how big everything's going to be. So since I have those triangles set up, I'm going to ghost my guidelines. I'm going to keep them here, but I don't need the rest of these guidelines anymore. I do need the center. I'm just going to go interactive shader, and those are those triangles I just created. There are 2 of them over there, and I will show you how those are going to work. I do need to create the vertical panel. So I'm going to select under topological level, I'm going to select segment, and I'm going to select that segment right there. And I'm going to move 1 copy all the way down to the bottom, right to here. And now I'm going to go back to, instead of segment, I'm going to select it as a object, because it is now an object. I'm not removing it from another piece of geometry, so now I can select that line as an object. And I'm going to move a copy of that up to the top. Like this, and now I have these two segments. I'm going to select both. I'm shifting and selecting these two segments. So I'm just going to loft that to create this vertical panel that I need. So there's my panel. So this is where I'm going to use my light bulb geometry to trim this panel with the cutout of that bulb shape. So that's why when I made the bulb, I needed to make the bulb accurate. I have that profile because I'm going to use that to create this die line for this package. So I will go under my trim split tools. Here, this allows us to cut things with lines with other objects, and we can split things by separating the two objects. And there's a whole series of different things that we can do here. So we have trim and split. I'm going to use split, which is down here at the bottom, split first object. That first object will be this panel. I'm going to select the panel, and then I'm going to select the bulb, which is going to trim from that panel. So it has cut that into these two pieces. I don't need this center profile, so I'm going to select that and just delete that. All right, so those little shadow areas, those are not really part of the geometry. Let's take a look at this wire. And that's just that under there. So we have a nice clean, I'm going to select it so we can take a look at this part here. So there it is. So that's the panel right there that I need. I'm going to have actually in this particular die line, we're going to have 4 of those to create this geometry. So essentially, I almost have everything I need to create this die line. We do have this other large panel on the side here, but we can derive that from putting these other pieces together. So I will show that. Excellent. All right, so let's move these around. 360. I'll do it from the top view. Actually, let me, yeah, let's do this from the top. I'm going to move these apart so we can see what we have. So I have that piece, that triangle there, and then I have this triangle here. Those will be my glue flaps at the end, and this is my center panel here. So that's really all I need. So I'm going to take these. The process will be to just have, what I would normally do is just take these, I would move a copy of these and bring them to another layer. I like to hang on to all the different layers. So I have multiple layers here. I got several packages that I worked on in this one folder. So let's just find the die line. I think I passed it. Hold on, CNC, folding carton, here we go. So I'm going to take those and bring those over to another layer, which looks like this. So let's just remove that layer I was working in, and you'll recognize the parts. So this is how this carton lays out. So I'm starting right here in the center. So I took 2 of those panels that I created, and I put the small triangles, which are glue flaps at the top. These other 2 opaque panels with the large triangle, that's going to be the side panel of that box. So by taking all of these and laying these out, this is the die line that we are going to use to create our sample for this particular structure. So if it's a little confusing here, when we actually cut this out of the cardboard, you'll see how all these pieces are going to fit. Because we're going to make 2 triangles, one triangular section on one side and one on the other side. And it's going to hinge in the center. And that's how the whole package is going to be assembled. So it's going to be quite interesting how that's going to work. All right, so in the next tutorial, I will print this out and actually cut this out of the cardboard, and we'll see how this assembly works.